Okay, so what's up? Um, here. Lower the volume. Maybe. All right, so I'm here, still not playing Spider-Man, but I am continuing on 80 Days. So to catch anyone or everyone up who's seeing this video, um, up to day 23 of the 80 days. I'm not quite sure how exactly this game's gonna react. Like once let's say if I don't make it the 80 days, if that's just like a game over and I got to start over, and that would kind of suck. Because I would like to well, not like to, but I pretty much have to complete this today. But fortunately, I am a good ways through, and yeah. So now I'm in Baghdad. So I mean, I don't even know if I'm doing that good or not. I mean, can I look at look at a map? All right. No, I want to actually look at a map of my progress. You know what? Whatever. I don't care anymore. Wait, is this? No, no. Wait, maybe this button will let me do it? Okay, here we go. Oh, it kind of shows. I don't know. I keep seeing dots of days come up. I'm wondering if day 12 depart for Tehran. I don't know. Well, considering how big this world is, I don't quite feel like I made that much of a dent. Yeah. So yeah. Oh well. Let's continue going and let's see what happens. Alright, we stay in Baghdad at the Tio Hotel, owned by one Marcus Tio, a man most improbably pale skin in these desert climes. You're a foreigner to. I've only recently taken over this place, I asked. I've owned the hotel for many years. He replied stolidly, but I have Norwegian blood in me, so I am very cautious of the sun. How does a Northman come to be here? I persisted. Sometimes I ask myself the same thing, he said with a sigh. I have a little interest in travel myself. My fascinations are elsewhere. I enjoy experiments. Whatever do you mean? I asked, intrigued. I have a great fascination with things, he replied, gesturing with a hand around the bar at the cluttered shelves, the ornaments, the fine antiquities that covered every surface, and I recently acquired a most wonderful thing. And what thing is that? A balloon, he declared with great joy. My son is taking it to Iran in the next few days. Are you a fellow balloonist, dear sir? Perhaps you would enjoy the ride. Not as yet, I replied. I will mention it to my master. Tio nodded. Excellent. And here's something else. Another thing. I looked on in interest. From a shelf on the wall, he took down a beautifully crafted dagger. This is as old as the city and very valuable, I'm sure. Please, from me. You're most generous? Oh, I'm not, he smiled. I've been told by people I trust unreservedly that this thing brings bad luck, and I will happy to be rid of it. Why not throw it into the river then? I asked. The only way to lift a curse is to cede ownership to someone who is aware of it. Should I lose it by either design or happenstance, I would be cursed forever. So, husband, will you take it from me? I am not superstitious, I told him, and slid the dagger into my belt. It was a very fine item indeed, a beautiful weight with cool, bejeweled scabbard. A most honest man, Monsieur Tio, I thought as I bid him good night, if perhaps not the cleverest macaron in the patisserie. What should go price in Kata should we sell it? I gotta start making decisions. We met Tio's son on the outskirts of the city beside an enormous balloon. This is Lawrence, Marcus said. He will take you to Tehran. Lawrence put on his hand to shake. You fellows are the navigators? No reply, just passengers. Oh, Lawrence looked at his father with evident surprise, but Marcus waved his objections away. You don't need a navigator, Lawrence, he assured him. Just follow the mountains until you see Tehran. Good luck. Before his son could reply, Marcus slipped a rope from its ring, and with the burner already fired, we disappeared upward. Greetings, Lawrence Tio. You're the foreigners. I am sure you know all about Tehran. The Prime Minister is a good influence on the young Shah. Is it possible to travel from Tehran to Leon? No idea, but now I have heard that the markets are open to traders of all faiths and creeds. What more can you tell me about Hale? Hale on the camel caravan route to the interior now anyway. You suppose my father trusts me? Indeed he must. He gave you this balloon. You are Prime Minister, but I am not sure this isn't a punishment in disguise. What more can you tell me about Hale? The city is prospering, but the trains will put it out of business. Can you travel from Hale to Luxor? I think it's actually still moving while I'm messing around with this. Anyways. Turn up here. Lawrence's need for a navigator became quickly evident. The balloon drifted on, and though we could control its direction of flight through an ingenious set of rudders, the land below was featureless desert. And below was featureless desert, marked by only the slightest notes and flourishes of raised land. Asked Spencer Fogg for advice. The sun rises in the east, he replied, so we shall head east with a little way north, and all will be well. The long day dragged on into cold starry night, and all I could imagine was the sound of the burner guttering and the balloon drifting to earth. You know my father well? Lawrence asked with an edge to his voice. No, but he seemed a decent fellow. Lawrence shook his head. He's a cruel miser, who uses people to his own ends and hides behind a smile. To be sure, if he put you on this balloon, he had a reason for it. What possible motive could he have? Honestly, I have no idea. It's wheels within wheels with that man, Lawrence sighed. I wish I could have had a simple father, one who was easy to outstrip. The balloon buffeted a little, and Lawrence skillfully opened the burner to lift us higher over the mountains. Did he try to shift that dagger of his onto you? He asked. I took the dagger from my belt, and Lawrence all but shrieked. You brought it on board a hot air balloon? Are you insane? Why? Surely you do not believe in curses. Not curses, Lawrence replied. Did you not notice the marks in the walls of the hotel? The dagger moves by itself. I tore the dagger from my belt immediately and held it over the edge of the basket. Then I froze. Your father told me the curse would linger unless the blade was given away, I said. Lawrence shook his head. It's not like that exactly. Drop it, go on. Shook my head. It's a valuable artifact, I replied, and I can do without a curse. Lawrence shrugged. You'll see, you'll see. Why are you making this trip? I asked, curious. You do not seem like a natural adventurer. I'm not, Lawrence replied. My father insisted I test the balloon. He pays for my schooling, so I had no choice. Ah, then, another servant. Despite heavy winds and whatever powers this curious blade of Teos possessed, we made it down to ground level on the outskirts of Tehran. Lawrence shook us both by the hand and wished us well. Will you return to Baghdad? I asked. He thought a moment, then shook his head. Perhaps not, he answered. I think my father may have been trying to kill me. Surely not. Lawrence chewed his lip. I think there must have been something in my mother's will, he murmured. I think I will be safer if I stay here. I wished them luck, then we departed into the city. Let's do some exploring. Say that the capital of the Persian Empire is modern would be to deny the empire the glory of its ancient monuments and places. Yet, Yandor class airships hummed into the sky like scimitar moons and mechanical palanquins adorned with enamel and gold work carried officials, poets, and lovers up and down the gaslit avenues. The Qajar Shahs ruled over an empire almost constantly at war. But the recent alliance with the Ottoman Sublime Porte had allowed the city to prosper despite border disputes with Russia and British India. The city is a garden of culture and art protected from the skirmishes along its borders. I sat in the cafes with poets as they dueled each other with words and competed for patronage. Alright, definitely have to plan. Alright, so I'm in Tehran. If only there was a way to get to Kedah. I wandered the streets once more, the poets and musicians. I saw engineers and found them in a cafe drinking heavily, serving coffee and racing their inventions across tabletops. I spoke to the metal forgers, an older woman whose muscular arms bulged under her chatter, leaned closer. The other artificers call us mere blacksmiths, she said, waving her burn-spotted hands, but could they make their wondrous devices if we didn't first hammer out their copper sheets and spin their wires? It is fine work, I remarked. The finest, a middle-aged fellow by the name of Rafik, remarked. In other cultures, a copper lily may be enough for an artificer to complete their education, but we all apprentice to other guilds and craftsmen. To truly make automata, we must be jewelers, architects, shipwrights, cobblers, doctors, dancers. But then you must learn endlessly. Rafik smiled. Is that not what human culture is? Is that not what Tehran is? Endless learning poured into buildings and gardens and inventions. I swallowed. Are you sure you're not a poet? And I'm a dancer too, Rafik winked, and we clinked our coffee glasses together. Someone further in called out to the Shahanshah, and we all raised our cups, and some wag added, "May he live forever," under the watchful eye of the Prime Minister, and everyone laughed. That is my abiding memory of Tehran. A place where people could be both right and humane all at the same time, a rare thing in this world of ours, is a city I am sure that will stand forever. A black horse reared from the prow of the Kamartaj, a masterpiece of Ottoman style powered by a new type of Persian engine. It ran from Istanbul through the Persian Empire and all the way to the British frontier city of Kabul. I was sorry to be leaving Tehran, a place of true possibility. Still, the Kamartaj left us in no doubt that we were leaving. Engines fired and we rocketed away along the rails. One of the American porters nudged his passionate friend and muttered something uncomplimentary as he watched me struggle to load our things into the luggage car. I focused upon my task, but they continued to stare at me in this courteous fascination. You look very strange for a servant, said the Armenian fellow, whose name turned out to be Abad Dejan. Perhaps even flamboyant ensemble. You look rather strange yourselves, I sniffed, gesturing to their quarters uniforms, which were a disastrous mixture of Persian and Ottoman fashions. They only laughed pityingly in response. Monsieur Abadjan tucked a purple lamb's wool pashmina around my neck. Perhaps this will help, he said, rather hopelessly. I stroked the soft fabric as I returned to my compartment. Monsieur Fogg made no comment, distracted by the whistles and shouts which marked our departure from Tehran. Mishima's scarf should fetch a good price in Agra, should we decide to sell it. I woke to a gentle rumble of the train and dressed quickly, deciding to wind my scarf around my neck in dashing style. Monsieur Abadjan was entirely correct in his sartorial assessment. Color suited my complexion very well. Monsieur Fogg took one look at me and raised an eyebrow, very vibrant. He remarked, "It was a gift," I said with a smile. "You do," he said dryly, "have a great facility for making friends." I do believe my master complimented me. I could scarcely credit it. So do you, monsieur, I lied stoutly, though my master tended to accumulate his partners and passing acquaintances rather than friends, was his only reply before he turned away and fixed his attention upon the passing scenery until the Kamartaj pulled into Herat on the border of the Persian Empire and the frontier of British Indian colonial lands. Relations with Fogg have improved slightly. We had our papers inspected by a Persian customs officer with a pair of magnificent spectacles made of polished brass and engraved with Farsi script along the arms. He inspected our documents while turning a small lever behind his ear. A pair of smoke glass lenses slipped over the clear ones, and he inspected our documents once more. You are widely traveled, he remarked. We are traveling around the world, I blurted, and could nearly hear my master refrain from rolling his eyes. Oh well, it's not my business, the official remarked philosophically. Your papers are in order, good luck with your travels. Repeated much the same experience with the British customs official a few hours later, and so we arrived at Kabul, thoroughly inspected and officially stamped. We explored the city. We were rather uncertain, mostly seized by a score of British infantry and marched along the walls of Kabul, up the mountain ridge, and to the fortress of Bala Hissar. Monsieur Fogg protested our treatment, and I joined my voice to his, though my outraged tones rather outmatched his calm ones. We were presented to a small, bespectacled gentleman in a palatial office which looked rather more like a court, despite the piles of books and surveyors' equipment littering the floor. He gave us a glance over his spectacle rims. I am Mr. Smythe, second assistant, political officer to the British mission here. I do not have the pleasure of your acquaintance. You have a fine office, I remarked the last. My friends. I felt no contrition at my rudeness, for I had been ill handled, and I was entirely out of my temper. Mr. Smythe blushed. The Durrani kings built Bala Hissar as a palace for it. It is a little opulent for its current use. That is beside the point. My master interjected sharply. I am Mr. Phileas Fogg, and this is my valet, Passepartout. I am a subject of Her Majesty, and passing through Kabul with no small urgency. The political officer's eyes flashed behind his lenses. Pray expand a little upon the nature of this urgency, Mr. Fogg. At the measure of a cool-eyed master, that much was certain. Monsieur Fogg was not used to being on the other side of the interrogation table, and I watched Monsieur Smythe closely as Monsieur Fogg explained his wager and our resultant breakneck trip around the world. I could see Smythe growing more astonished with each word. Finally, he took off his glasses and tapped them on the table. Were you Russian or Persian spies? He said amusingly. Would have a more plausible story. You go too far, sir, I broke in. Abandoning common sense, my master is an Englishman through and through. He probably dreams of Queen Victoria every night. Sir Smythe's eyebrow raised in the eerie mirroring of my master's expression, and then he cleared his throat. A friend of mine is traveling to Omsk. I consider a great favor if you accompanied her. A particular friend, I winked. You could say that, I suppose. She's very particular. Cho will think on it. He dismissed us and returned to his papers at a second glance. Quite a commanding fellow for a mere second assistant political officer. Relationship talk has deteriorated somewhat. Character is now presentable. Well, if I'm gonna go Alms, I have to like decide now. I guess we'll go. We met the friend of Monsieur Smythe, Her Majesty's second assistant, political officer in Kabul, at the airship dock. She was wearing a daring red dress cut in the Italian style, draped over with a mink coat lined in satin. I greeted her with a bow, and she swept her eyes over Monsieur Fogg and myself before inclining her head. "Where did Smythe dig you two up?" she asked rhetorically in the plummy tones of an English aristocrat. "Never mind, I'm Lady Sybil." With that, she swept away, leaving me to manage both our bags and her own assortment of traveling cases. I barely had time to join her at the railing before the little Shetland's airship jolted in the air, further evidence of the German Empire's heavy investment in Afghanistan's infrastructure. "Greetings, my lady. Passepartout? Why, yes. Very interested in Alms. Have you ever heard of Alms as connected to us by rail? What else do you know about us? Here's something. There is neither bank nor market in Irkutsk. It's possible to travel from Irkutsk to Urga. Indeed, one can travel by the Mongol horse caravan from Irkutsk to Urga. First day's travels was quiet enough, drifting idly across mountaintops. Watch the scenery floating past, the valleys and impossible slopes punctuated by even more impossible villages and the occasional remote monastery. People, it appeared, were capable of getting anywhere, even onto a boat that sailed through the clouds. Night fell and stars lit up the sky. Lady Sybil joined me in looking at them, pointing up at one. "The dolphin," she remarked. "It's the only constellation I know." "And why is that, madam?" I asked, feeling there must be a story attached, but she only shrugged. "It actually looks like a dolphin. It is so rare for things to look like what they truly are, don't you find?" With that cryptic remark, she left me. We were boarded by half a dozen Imperial Russian customs inspectors. A few hundred miles into their airspace, Lady Sybil came to me as they checked the pilot's papers. Hold on.